Chapter 12. No kind providence could have arranged matters more satisfactorily, in thus providing for Cosette's education in one of the best schools in France, while giving him congenial employment in work he loves and safeguarding him against the pursuit of Javert. Even the bloodhounds of the law would never dream of insulting the church by seeking a criminal in the sacred precincts of a holy convent. Besides, it affords him the daily joy of one whole hour with the child who has become an essential part of his every life. In such a haven to Jean the months swiftly grow into years, until one day, gazing in admiration and affection on Cosette's beauty as she, with swift feet, follows down the garden paths, a wind-driven leaf, he begins to realize her near approach to womanhood. Fearful lest she might become a nun and thus deprive him of earth's fairest jewel, he decides that her education is sufficiently advanced to justify his resigning his position and taking her out of the convent. Forthwith he rents in the city suburbs a comfortable home, well screened from public's curious eyes by a high wall and large trees. The house he furnishes with much care and expense, and engages a middle-aged woman as housekeeper and companion for Cosette. A little lodge on the same city lot he sparingly furnishes for himself, if perchance a wooden bench with plain deal chair and table on a bare floor can be described as furnishing. Really, it is more closely resembles the cell in Toulon's convict prison, which he occupied for 19 years. And I imagine he has this in mind when making the lodge his personal abode. Here he eats and sleeps by choice, thus keeping in mind his sin against the lad of Savoy. One noontime, Cosette, on some kindly errand, runs into the lodge and finds him dining with only a piece of hard black bread and a pitcher of water for his midday meal. "Father, father," she exclaims in astonishment, "is this the kind of dinner you give yourself, while you get everything from me? Why don't you eat with us? We would so love to have you." Smilingly he assures her, "This is all I wish, my child," then quietly adds, "and far more than I deserve." Every day the two walk together to the park, where from one of the benches he follows with love-lit eyes his adopted daughter, half child, half woman, as she gathers wild flowers and brings them to her admiring companion, to ask the name or note the fragrance. Or, sitting at his side, swinging her bonnet by its string, she tells laughingly some story of her convent life. These are to Jean hours of gladness, unsullied and complete. One afternoon, while thus occupied, there appears walking toward them along the graveled footpath in apparent meditation a young law student of distinguished bearing named Marius. Suddenly his eyes are lifted and met the sparkling gaze of the laughing girl. The deed is done. No other part of the park has for Marius further attraction. In vain the annoyed father proposes a change of seats. The young gentleman's feet soon follow. Finally, at Jean's suggestion, they turn their footsteps homeward earlier than has been their custom. Next day, Jean deliberately chooses a bench on the other side of the park in its most secluded and unfrequented section. He is anxious to avoid the unwelcome presence of that persistent young man. Cosette does not seem to feel so strongly on the question. However, Marius again appears in the picture, and what most troubles the father is the evident fact that his daughter manifests no resentment at this youth's presence and admiring glances. Jean is so greatly concerned lest these young people fall in love with each other and deprive him of the coveted possession of his little girl that their daily excursions to the park cease. This, however, fails to improve conditions, as the young lovers are soon discovered playing Romeo and Juliet over the garden wall. Jean determines at any cost to break off this friendship and moves to a distant suburb of the city so unexpectedly as to give no opportunity for a parting word or exchange of address. It looks as though this method will prove a success, as the law student does not for some time appear on the horizon of their quiet lives. The father is congratulating himself on his achievement when, one evening, going to Cosette's room, he notices lying on her dresser a piece of blotting paper on which are a few words, reflected right side up in the mirror, that tell the story. She's been writing a love letter to Marius and must know his address. At once the old man's heart is led. He hurries outside, drops on the doorstep, and covers his face with his hands in mute despair. Soon a messenger lad stops before him to inquire if Monsieur Fauchelevent lives here, and, when assured of the fact, gives him a letter addressed to Mademoiselle Fauchelevent and runs away. Puzzled by the unusual procedure, the sad-hearted man examines the carefully sealed letter with the growing suspicion that it might be an answer to Cosette's love epistle. While pitying Jean, we do not attempt to condone or justify his action, as he carries the letter to his own room and, breaking the seal, finds his suspicion justified. Marius addresses Cosette in most endearing terms, telling her how, after missing her at the park long months ago, he sought her in every part of the great city, and, failing to find her, in bitterness and desperation, he joined the revolutionists, not caring what might happen to him. Being hard pressed by the soldiers, they had built a barricade in a part of the city, which he carefully describes, then adds, "It will not be possible to hold out much longer, and we shall all be killed. But I will die with my heart full of love for you." The anxious old man heaves a sigh of relief, thinking, now he'll get killed and I'll have the little girl all to myself. Then he hears a voice saying, "Shame on you, Jean Valjean. You wished that man killed and out of your way. That's murder in your heart. Is that like Jesus Christ, for whom the good bishop bought your soul? Have not these young people the same right to live and love as you?" In a moment, he is ashamed and humbled. Without a word to Cosette, he changes his clothes for more suitable garb and promptly makes his way to the place indicated in the letter of Marius. This is not a difficult task, since his numerous walks in that part of the city had made him familiar with every foot of ground. He finds, as expected, a dark and narrow passage unguarded, admitting him to a low part of the barricade wall, over which he drops into the midst of the revolutionaries. Immediately he is confronted with the leader's challenge. "What have you come in here for, old man? Are you a spy?" "I'm no spy," indignantly declares Jean, lifting from his snow-white hair his cap and looking his questioner straight in the eye. "Then what do you want in here?" "I'll tell you, sir. I heard you folk here were in a tight place, and thinking an able-bodied man might be of some help, I came to offer my services." The intruder's honest face and the desperate condition of the besieged hastened the acceptance of Jean's statement by the leader. He lost no time in thrusting into his hand a musket and bade him climb the wall and fight for his life, for none of them had long to live. "I'm willing to take my chances with the rest," cheerfully declares a new recruit, as he grasps the preferred weapon and mounts the wall, where his keen eyes have picked out Marius amongst the defenders. Feeling a huge body thrusting its way into a place beside him, Marius looks up amazed to recognize the father of the girl he loves and wonders what could have brought him there. Jean knows and promptly joins in the uneven battle against the attacking soldiers. Strong and fearless as a lion, his mighty arms hurl back and down the ladders of the besiegers. When a musket is thrust into the very face of Marius, it is the old man's quick hand that beats it back and saves him. When guardsmen begin firing from the roofs of neighboring houses down into the barricade, it is Jean's skill with the gun, gained in poaching when a boy, that enables him to shoot their helmets off, one by one, until the roofs are cleared of hostile forces, while the onlooking leader, with an oath, inquires why he does not shoot them dead, instead of just knocking their helmets off, leaving them alive to renew the attack. "I don't want to kill anybody, sir," was the strong man's quiet reply. These desperate men cannot understand, for they do not know that the stranger who, unasked, has come to their help, has been drinking deeply of the spirit of him who came into the world not to destroy men's lives, but to save them. Now Jean bears a message from the leader into a big room, formerly a liquor shop, opening off the barricade, and here is astonished to find, with hands fast bound and body tied by ropes to a pillar, an inspector of guardsmen, whom he cannot fail to recognize as his old enemy, Javert, whose gaze, unflinching, meets his own. Neither speaks. Back on the fighting front again, he inquires the meaning of the guard inside tied to the pillar, and is informed that, hours before, this man in uniform had gained an entrance to the barricade under the profession of friendship, but examination had proved him a spy whom they had condemned to be shot when they were no longer able to hold the fort. This explanation seems to suit Jean perfectly, as again he swings fearlessly into the battle. Meantime, the devastating artillery has torn great holes in the barricade wall, and the leader shouts above the din, "The game is lost. There will be a charge of soldiers any moment, and our defense is gone. Who will take out that spy and shoot him?" There being no rush to volunteers with a prior claim, Jean respectfully lifts his cap, saying, "Excuse me, sir, but if I have been of any use here today, I would ask that privilege as a special favor." The commander looks upon him with something of scorn, unable to comprehend how this brave old man, unwilling to shoot a guard on the roof, is trying to shoot him, is so anxious to destroy this doomed spy who never did him any harm. Thinking, however, that this may have to do with some personal feud, he readily consents with the remark, "You're welcome to the dirty job. No one else wants it." "Thank you, sir," is the polite reply, as Jean hurries into the room, cuts the ropes that bind Javert to the pillar, leaving his hands still tied, then leads him in haste out of the back door and over a low wall, out of sight of everybody. The keen-edged knife flashes his hand again, while Javert, concluding that the closing moment of his life has arrived, does not flinch. Whatever else he may be, he is no coward. With swift stroke, the gleaming knife severs the cords that bind Javert's hands, setting them free. Jean fires his pistol into the air. In crisp tones, commands, "Now, Javert, go." "What do you mean, Jean Valjean?" "I mean, get away as fast as you can, if you would save your life. For if they in the barricade find you here alive, they'll kill you. I don't want to go. I've hunted you like a bloodhound all over this country to send you back to the galleys, and now when you can settle the whole business in a minute, you let me go free? I wish you'd kill me." "I don't want to kill you, Javert. Save yourself." And leaping back, Jean is just in time to see the soldiers storming the barricade and Marius fall before savage saber thrusts. Dropping on hands and knees, Jean creeps in and out amongst the rushing feet to the place where Marius has fallen, drags his body around the corner into a quiet place, feels his heart, finds it still beating, examines his wounds, which are only flesh deep. Then, looking eagerly about for some way of escape, he discovers close at hand the iron grating of a manhole, which he pulls up, and slipping down himself drags after him the unconscious body.